This single Logic Pro plugin is a secret weapon for adding weight, character and grit to any sound you put through it. Let me show you. Here's just a normal drum beat without anything on. Quite cool, nice sound. And here's the drum beat with the effect added on. Big difference, right? This powerful plugin is the Phat FX. And if you're not using it, you are missing out. In this video, I'm going to run through how to use it and I'll share with you some of my favorite tricks. So what does Phat FX do? Well, there are loads of different distortions, modulations, filters, bass enhancer, compressor. It's like a multi-tool for getting character and grit and interesting stuff going on, basically. It also features LFOs and envelope followers, so you can do some modulations within that. So first off, I'm going to initialize the settings, so that just resets it. You kind of run from left to right, top down, but you can change the order of things at the bottom here just by moving these around, so that's quite cool. If you change the signal flow, it will change how the overall thing sounds. So the very first module here is a bandpass filter, and you can change the different types of filter it does, whether you want it edgy. Here's where you set the bands, so if you want it just to focus on the mid-range, you could do something like that. There's different resonances for each of these. So at each of these filter cutoff frequencies, there's a resonance for each one of them. So you can make it a bit more squeaky and high pitchy. And then this knob just allows you to bleed back in the original signal. Okay, here you've got an XY graph, and we'll come back to that later on because that is quite cool, but it helps to have lots of modulations going on first before you set it up. So next over here, you've got another filter. So pretty standard, you've got a low pass filter and you've got lots of different types. You've then got band pass filters, then high pass filters, then some interesting ones like the comb filters, and then some effects down the bottom like bit crushing dirt, grit, ring modulation, which is always cool. So if I put that on, so that's quite sweet, and the combs are always quite good too. Crazy. So yeah, there's the comb. So if I just put it back to something normal, like a low pass, should be a bit more familiar. You've got the cutoff, you've got the resonance, you've got the drive, and mix. So you can bleed in the original or have it completely wet or dry. Sure, you're familiar with filters, so let's just move on from there. Next is the distortion. So what's really cool is you've got 3 different ones you can stack on top of each other, and from in here you've got about 12 different ones you can choose from. So from basic saturation, let's just reset it again just so you can hear what's going on. Distortion, so let's go to soft saturation. Making it nice and crispy on the top. And then what if we go a bit more extreme? Let's go for some scream. Awesome. And then you've got something like the more digital bit crusher. Cool, so that's the distortion. Mod effects next. So this is basically just a chorus. So you've got 4 different varying levels of chorus, from a classic, which is quite mild. And then you've got a heavy. You can change the mix, how much, and then the rate, how fast. So that's pretty cool. A nice chorusy phaser kind of thing going on there. Next we've got a bass enhancer. So that's just gonna enhance the low end. So you can choose what frequency, you can tune it. In fact, that would probably sound better on a bass. Here's what it just sounds like without the effect on. Basically that. So if we put this on and add the bass enhancer, so you can kind of hear what that's doing, really just enhancing the bass and the low end. Next you've got a compressor. it fairly off, and then if you turn it up, it's going to get really loud because it's got the auto gain built into it. So it's compressing, but it's also being made up in the same process. You've got different types to choose from. So these are basically Logic Pro's compressor modes that you find if you add on a compressor. So you've got VCAs, you've got FETs, you've got optos, and then you've got a release function here. So a quick release, you're going to hear it. And then if it's a bit slower, it's going to smooth out the sound a little bit more. Now, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of these parameters and you just wish you had a step-by-step guide to finishing tracks, I've put a link to my complete beginner course in the description below for you to check out. So those are the main effects. On the bottom row, you've got modulation. So here is an envelope follower, and let's jump back to the drums for the envelope follower. It's easier to hear. So the bass in this example is fairly similar dynamically, but the drums will have a bit more spikes in them, so you'll be able to hear the envelope follower better. And so this is basically going to follow the amplitude of the source and then apply that amplitude to a different setting. So we need to apply a target basically, and by default it's set to filter cutoff. I'll need to turn my filter on. Let's do that. That looks all right. And then you've got these three controls. You've got the attack, the release, like so similar to the compressor, how quickly they come on or come off. And then the depth is going to be the amount, and you can either go all the way that way or you can go all the way to the other way. And you should have seen when I went all the way to the left, a blue ring comes around the cutoff, and that shows you where it's modulating. So if I apply this now, drums just only. So let's go the other way. So you can see the cutoff is dancing about based on how much energy is going in. So the kick drum's the heaviest, it's got the most energy, and therefore the cutoff is being driven further around. One of the ways that I really like to use it is to apply it to the drive actually, and then it will get heavier as there's more energy. So there's just going to be a little bit more distortion, a little bit more drive from the filter when the kick drum hits. So it's going to sound like there's a bit more energy. Here it is without. Obviously you want to fine tune it so it's not crazy distorting, but you can do that for an effect if you like. But that's the envelope follower essentially. Then you've got things that you're probably familiar with, which are LFOs. So you can just apply an LFO one to, let's turn off the envelope follower. So you could apply just the first LFO to say the cutoff of the filter. So I've got the rate here doing 1/16. Obviously you can change this or you can take it off syncing to the beat. And then you've got the depth, so how much it's going to modulate, whatever you're modulating, and the target is here, what you're going to modulate. So you can change it to any of these if they were turned on. That's the reason they're grayed out. So say I wanted it to be chorus, I could do it to the Mod FX mix. Let's go there, let's move the depth up. You can kind of hear it there. So you can do some creative stuff with it. Oh, and you can also change the shape here if you want to change different shapes. And then next you've got another LFO, so exactly the same as this one pretty much. And then you've got the master, which is basically controls for the input and the output, and you can add a limiter or you can do hard clipping. So you can push it with the limiter on. And because you've got the limiter on, it's never going to exceed 0 over here. So that's soft limiting, or you can do hard clipping. They just have different tones. The hard clipping sounds a little bit more distorted. So you've got the input and you've got the output, but you can also change the balance. You can have it running in parallel essentially. So if it's off, it's completely off, the plugin, bring it up. And this is actually really powerful because now you've got parallel processing. So you can bleed in the effect of all of these effects into one sound. So that's really cool in my opinion. Like a much more advanced parallel compression, if you like. Oh, and as I mentioned, I would tell you about the X and Y. So you can assign these to different effects. So let's just put everything on a second. Lots of options to choose from. So on the X-axis, I can have, say, low cutoff. And I'm just choosing different effects. So I could have distortion, soft saturation on this X-axis here. And then on the Y-axis, I can have, let's say, filter drive, and let's say filter cutoff. And I'm going to need to increase the depth on all of these so they register. So I'm going to go 100% on all of them. You see the blue ring come around the saturation there. That lets you know that it's going to be modulated. If you can't see it, you might have to do something like that. When I move this blue dot around, so it's going to act like a macro. I'm going to change all of these at once. So let's have a listen. And you can also record automation for this. So this is one of the tricks I like to do, is to put it in latch mode here and then just something super heavy, go back into read mode. You can automate the XY graph and come up with some really cool sounds. So Phat FX is super cool, super powerful. I really love this plugin. I think it's a little bit underrated and a little bit slept on. So for creative distortion effects, check it out. Quite cool, nice sound. Let's add on the Phat FX now. A lot heavier. So that's how I use the Phat FX. How about you? How do you use it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see how to use Logic Pro step effects in the next video, then hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another video. Take care.